urge everybody to support the rally at 1 o'clock on Thursday. So our first speaker then is Sam Fairbairn, who's the National Secretary of the National People's Assembly Organisation. Thank you.
Well, thanks Janet, and I'd just like to congratulate the organisers of tonight for pulling this meeting together, and I'm pleased to report that the meeting tonight is just one of 4 meetings like this that are taking place up and down the country this week to launch brand new People's Assembly groups across the country. And I think meetings like this are becoming more and more important, because we're now at a time when at the end of last year, David Cameron, speaking by the way from a gold podium at the Lord Mayor's banquet, announces that we need permanent austerity. He says that we need permanent austerity regardless of the deficit. Osborne last month announced a further £25 billion in cuts, and living standards have consistently fallen since 2010. A recent Office for National Statistics report, which came out a couple of weeks ago, found that we're now going through the longest consistent fall in real wages since records began. A recent Unite survey that was just out found that only 18% of workers report that their wages last the entire month. It's no surprise then that payday loan companies are reporting record profits. It's forcing people into the hands of these payday loan sharks and these kinds of things. 9 out of 10 new housing benefit claims come from those that are in work but are being paid too little to be able to afford their rent each month. And if you want to talk about a housing crisis, let's look at the bedroom tax. At the time when there's a huge crisis in housing, the government passes a bill that says 750,000 people need to pay more if they've got the poorest in society need to pay more if they've got a spare room. Well, at the same time as all of this, and that's just a kind of snapshot of just a few things that are going on at the moment. But at the same time as this is happening, we are told that the economy is recovering. The economy has turned a corner and is growing faster than anyone could have expected. But what this says, I think, what the government is saying is that it's getting better for us at the top, but you down there, you deserve austerity. And I think really this exposes more and more, exposes the fact that what the government's real agenda is here is that it's to fundamentally restructure society to benefit the rich. And I think that's becoming more and more obvious. But I think that also means that the so-called recovery is fake, because living standards are dropping. It means investment in the real economy is absolutely rock bottom. What that means is it's sucking any real demand out of the economy. And I think the so-called recovery represents a bubble that's waiting to burst. But we also have to realise that all 3 major parties, all 3 of the main parties, are absolutely committed to austerity. And that means that now more than ever, we need a mass movement on the streets, independent of any one political party or one organisation, that can challenge it, that can stand up to what's going on and to these kinds of things. Because a mass movement is the only way that we're going to stop this, happening. And I just want to be clear. I mean, the kind of movement that we want to create isn't going to happen overnight. It's very, very difficult to create this kind of movement. It's going to be a lot of hard work. And meetings like tonight, we have to see as just the start. We want people to go back from this meeting tonight and start to organise in our communities. That means turning this kind of meeting, which is a fantastic turnout, there must be hundreds of people here, but the next meeting, we want to triple the size of this. We want to go back and we want to go into our communities and organise protests. We want to organise, be as visual as possible. We need to organise, talk about how we concretely organise to get people down to support the strikes later on this week. We need to think about doing big press stunts on the street. We need to be very creative about this movement and connect with the millions and millions of people out there who are being affected by these kinds of things. And I think that's the key point here. This movement has got to involve absolutely everybody that's being affected. It's got to involve anybody that agrees with us that there shouldn't be any cuts. It's got to involve anybody that agrees there should be no privatisation, that we should renationalise the energy company and the railways. It's got to involve anybody that agrees with us around these issues, and that includes people from the Labour Party, that includes people from the Green Party, that includes people in trade unions, that includes people out of trade unions, that includes the students, the pensioners. This is everybody's movement, and what that means is that we need to get together, we need to leave our differences at the door, and we need to unite around these issues that we can all agree on. Because it's that's going to give confidence to people that we can win. And I think we need to look at what we're up against here. We are up against a mass media, a right-wing mass media, and politicians who want to tell us that protest doesn't work. They want to say that the only thing that we can contribute to society is by going to a ballot box once every 4 years and putting an X by a name or in a box. Now, actually, when you look back at any big change in society, at any serious progressive change, that has come about from mass movements like the one that we're trying to create now. And I think we need to give confidence to people that actually protest does work. Let's just look back at a couple of things. The Chartists that won the vote. Very proud history here up here in Preston. The suffragette movement who won the vote for women. If you look over in Canada, the students that were protesting against the rise in tuition fees quite recently, just a couple of years ago, won an absolute outright victory by mobilising hundreds of thousands of people on the streets in Quebec. More recently, if you look at the anti-war movement, the Syria vote last year, I think, displayed an absolute victory for the anti-war movement, and it was a fantastic victory for all of those millions of people that were demonstrating and were marching against the war over the last 10 years. Even more recent than that, the recent victory around the Lewisham Hospital campaign. That was a campaign that mobilised tens and tens of thousands of people in one borough of London that managed to keep the hospital open. That won that campaign and managed to keep the hospital open. And I think that is these kind of things that we need to keep getting across to people, that if we unite, if we create this mass movement that we so badly need, then we can actually start to turn the tide on austerity. And that's why I think the People's Assembly is so important. And we've made a very, very good start. We've had meetings like these in countless places up and down the country. We've been travelling the country, especially Owen has been up and down the country constantly, speaking to hundreds and hundreds of people across the country. We launched with a conference in London of over 4,000 people last June. Since that conference, over 80 local People's Assembly groups have sprung up across the country, and more are springing up every week, like I said before. And we've organised some very, very big events and days of action. But if we're going to be successful, we need much more action. We need more action locally, we need more action nationally. As well as fighting every local cut, we need to be able to coordinate all of the groups together, all of the trade unions, all of the different parts of all the different sections of people that are resisting austerity together into one coordinated movement, because austerity is being orchestrated nationally, and we also need to be able to fight it nationally as well. And I just want to finish on over the next few months. We've got an action plan which I think we can start to seriously challenge austerity, and that starts on Budget Day. On the 19th of March, George Osborne is going to be laying out his plans for cuts and privatisation over the coming year. We've called a day of action in every town and city across the country, and I hope we can organise something up here in Lancashire around that, as well as being part of that day of action where groups are going to be doing stuff across the country. On the 21st of June, the People's Assembly has called a national demonstration and a free festival in London. We're going to start it at the BBC headquarters and march to Parliament. We're going to say, and that's to demonstrate that anti-austerity views are not being represented in either Parliament, in either the mass media or in Parliament. So we're going to go to their doorstep and say, you cannot ignore us anymore. On the 19th of October, the TUC have called a national demonstration in London as well. On the 5th of April, the birthday of exactly 1 year on from the bedroom tax being introduced, there's Unite Community and others have called a day of action against that, and I think we need to get behind that and think creatively about how we can, about protests and all that kind of stuff across the country. And finally, I'd just like to send a kind of formal invite to everybody here to come down to the People's Assembly National Conference on the 15th of March. That's where we're going to recall all of the sections of the movement. Every single part of the anti-austerity movement will be in one place at one time, and that's where we can lay out action plans, decide on the future for the organisation, and we want to say that this is your movement. We want you to be a part of it and be involved with the decisions going forward. So thanks for having me, and congratulations on this fantastic meeting.